Welcome and thank you for joining us online for the first module of the reviewer training. I'm Sonia McKenzie. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator for volunteers here at Oregon Community Foundation. This module will walk you through reviewing and scoring applications for Oregon Community Foundation's Community Grants Program. Before we begin, there are three pre-review resources. The website, which includes frequently asked questions, the program guidelines, also known as the RFP or request for proposals, and finally, a recording of the information session for the nonprofits that are applying for the grants. You can find all the information and tools at our online resource center linked here. If you haven't already completed these steps, we ask that you pause this recording and review the resources specific to the current cycle of the Community Grants Program. These applicant resources will help build a solid foundation to support you in the review process. Rather than repeat information and to maximize your time, this training will provide a more thorough explanation specific to your role as a volunteer reviewer. In this module, I will provide an overview of the Community Grants Program, define your role as a grant evaluator, and give an update on this cycle's funding priorities. And then we'll dig into the review process, the criteria and scoring system, and then I'll finish with a review of the next steps. So let's get started. Let's begin with the program overview. The program goal of the community grants is to provide equitable access to flexible funding for organizations serving communities' most pressing needs throughout Oregon. Equitable access, ensuring that all applicants have tools and resources to succeed, regardless of org size, sophistication, etc. Flexible funding. We offer different grant programs through each cycle. General operating support in the spring, change-based in the fall. Most pressing needs as defined by the community served, with the community served. Throughout Oregon, OCF's dedication to serve the full state. Community grants is what we call a responsive program. In a responsive approach, OCF is not defining a strategy or a project, but rather organizations from across the state are submitting requests to support projects and solutions to needs facing their communities that are in alignment with our stated priorities. This program has an open, competitive application process that aims to address a wide range of community-identified needs and issues. Community grants is also a way we inspire more giving. By sharing funding requests with our network of generous donors, we significantly increase funding to committees. And engaging communities in our decision-making process is a core pillar of our community engagement work. We depend on our dedicated statewide network of grant evaluators who have personal lived experience and local expertise, and support staff across the state in identifying which requests are most aligned with our priorities and will have a positive impact. We seek to build bridges of connection, eradicate the process of othering, and actively promote a sense of belonging for all Oregonians through our funding. We are committed to funding across Oregon with grant dollars, reaching rural and urban communities in every region. We prioritize efforts that demonstrate solid planning, strong community engagement, and building relationships. We believe creative, impactful, and sustainable solutions come from people closest to the issues being addressed and should be implemented by trusted organizations working alongside community. We prioritize efforts that demonstrate solid planning, strong community engagement, and relationship building. We deeply value having our team live and work in the communities we serve. OCF believes it's critical to maintain a regional presence across all regions in Oregon. You can see here that OCF has representation in 8 regions, which has been served by 5 offices, soon to be 6. Our offices are in Bend, Eugene, Medford, Portland, and Salem, and soon Baker City. We're very excited to deepen our relationship in Eastern Oregon. Here we'd like to introduce you to the statewide OCF Community Grants team. We will provide some insight into the different roles that our team members have and how they will support you in your role as a grant evaluator. Program management. The community grants team is managed by a program director. They provide team management, oversight, and coordination of statewide community grants programs for OCF. Volunteer engagement. As a new volunteer grant evaluator, your first step is to meet me, Sonia McKenzie, the community engagement coordinator for volunteers. My role is to support the community grants team with recruitment, training, onboarding, evaluation, and program support for volunteers statewide for the community grants program. Our program associate provides crucial administrative and technical support of our community grants team. Our regional program officers, they are here to serve and support your region. Our regional program officers provide oversight of application processes, proposal review, and development of grant recommendations for the community grants program. We encourage you to connect with a program officer serving your region through the community grants website. And thank you again for your partnership and service to Oregon communities. Now let's talk about your role as a grant evaluator. Your next adventure is community grants. There are a few things I want you to know as you set out on this review adventure with us. Imagine you're hiking the trail with a team. Across the state, we will review hundreds of funding requests. We're in this together. Enjoy the scenery. Through this process, you will learn about some extremely impressive work being proposed and the many needs facing Oregonians today. Your role is to explore and assess the request and get curious about what is being proposed. Let your lived experience guide your journey. As a community grant evaluator, your lived experience helps bring equity, local context, and valuable insight. Watch for challenging routes. There's a lot of information coming after this. Reviewing funding requests is a tough job. Needs are vast and funds are limited. We ask you to be prepared to engage thoughtfully. One rock you might encounter is a conflict of interest. If you're affiliated with an organization, let us know so we can avoid assigning that application to you in the review. Stay on the trail. We will do our best to communicate with you at key points in time so that you know about the next steps and prepare you for the processes. Have your equipment ready. Instead of a backpack, water bottle, and GPS, you'll need a computer, a reliable internet connection, and a willingness to read and learn, and time set aside to read and write. We will be using a virtual format and online tools for the bulk of the grant evaluation process. Please let us know as soon as possible if you don't have access or are not comfortable with using technology for the review process. Also, let us know if there's anything we can do to help you with your accessibility needs. We recommend using these group norms to center yourself in your role as a community grant evaluator. This is particularly relevant to help set the tone for the discussions during your meetings. Please consider how you can create an environment that is welcoming and inclusive by referencing these guidelines. Let's talk about conflict of interest. What is a conflict of interest? Conflict of interest happens when the grant evaluator's personal, professional, or financial relationships could compromise or even appear to compromise their objectivity in evaluating an application. Even the perception of a conflict can undermine trust in the process, so it's taken very seriously. Managing conflicts is crucial for several reasons. It protects the fairness and credibility of the review process. It maintains public trust in funding decisions. It prevents bias or undue influence and safeguards both the organization and grant reviewer from both ethical and legal risk. So what are the strategies to mitigate the conflict of interest? Well, before you review, we require written disclosure of any real potential or perceived conflicts of interest. We clearly define what constitutes a conflict of interest, whether a personal or financial, institutional, or relational relationship. We also assign applications only to grant evaluators who don't have conflicts. So strategies to mitigate conflict of interest during the review. Grant evaluators must recuse themselves from scoring or discussing if a conflict exists. We use multiple reviewers to balance perspectives. and we apply a scoring rubric consistently to ensure a fair and objective evaluation. So what constitutes a conflict of interest and how do we address it? Here's some examples. Example 1, grant evaluators can have conflicts of interest in several ways. One common area is organizational or governance relationships. For example, conflict of interest exists if a grant evaluator currently serves on the board advisory committee or an executive leadership or an applicant organization. So the conflict is if they have a decision-making authority or fiduciary responsibility for the organization, that's considered a conflict. The response, in these cases, the grant evaluator must disclose the conflict immediately, and they will be recused from reviewing and discussing that application. Grant evaluators will be assigned a new application, and staff will reassign the conflicted application to another reviewer. So here's another example. Imagine a grant evaluator who works for and leads Organization B, or serves in a leadership role, such as an executive director, program director, or department head. Then that Organization B, applies for a grant. So what is the conflict? The conflict is because the grant evaluator has a professional or financial connection to the applicant organization and could benefit from the grant. This is a direct conflict of interest. So what should happen in this case? The grant evaluator should disclose the conflict up front. The grant evaluator will be fully recused from reviewing, scoring, or discussing the application and will be assigned another application. The staff will reassign the conflicted application to another evaluator. So what should I do if I have a conflict of interest? First, the first option is to disclose in the survey. Any potential conflicts of interest when you complete the participation training survey. This gives us an opportunity and an early heads up to address any conflicts of interest. Second, notify us immediately during community review. If a conflict comes up during the review process, please notify program staff immediately. Don't wait. Next, you'll need to wait for a reassigned application. Our program staff will handle the reassignment. You will be recused from the conflicted application, and another one will be assigned to you for review. So next we'll talk about funding priorities. And just a quick note to returning volunteers, these priorities will look similar to the 2024 cycle. General operating support. General operating support awards are an investment in an organization's mission and health, helping organizations stay strong and resilient. We trust awardees to understand their own needs and to decide how to best use the funding. In the 2026 spring cycle, funding will prioritize general operating support for small rural organizations, culturally specific organizations, and culturally responsive organizations. General operating support awards support an organization's overall mission. This means the 2026 spring cycle will not direct funds towards specific programs, such as new programs or projects. For the 2026 spring cycle, competitive organizations should fit into one or more of the following categories: small rural organizations, culturally specific organizations, or culturally responsive organizations. Priority populations. For this opportunity, a broad range of organizations are eligible to apply. Our funding priorities are focused on community served, not issues, as we have found this approach helps us to best serve those who have historically experienced significant bias, discrimination, or underinvestment. It also creates flexibility for those who address numerous topics, as they do not have to limit their application or work. These priority populations are applicable to both rural and urban geographies. This community-centered approach means that community grants can support a wide range of issues or topics, including but not limited to education, economic vitality, housing, arts and culture, environment, and more. The most competitive applications will be those who intend to improve life in communities most impacted and most often under-resourced. If you have a question about how the priority populations identified in the application align with the community gap's priorities, we encourage you to attend the virtual office hours to connect with your regional program officer. So let's identify small rural organizations. Small rural organizations in Oregon are defined by the following criteria. They are located in and serves a community or communities with a population of 35,000 or less, not directly adjacent to or part of a metro area of 50,000 people or more. They should have less than $250,000 in operating expenses during their most recent completed fiscal year. Culturally specific organizations are defined as serving a distinct cultural community, primarily staffed and led by members of that community. The population served recognizes the organization as specific to their community, and they have an intimate knowledge of the community's lived experience. Culturally responsive organizations are defined as organizations that adapt their services to maximize respect for and relevance to the beliefs, practices, culture, and linguistic needs of diverse populations and communities. Cultural responsiveness entails an ability to respond to the issues of diverse communities, which requires knowledge and capacity at systemic, organizational, professional, and individual levels of intervention. So now let's dig into the review process, specifically the review criteria and our scoring system. The best process is when we use the full range of scores. If you score all of your applications as very competitive or all of them as not competitive, it'll be very difficult to ascertain the true impact of the application. Using the full range of scores provides program officers with a better understanding of the applications. So the grant review process. Each application is assigned to at least 2 reviewers. You will be invited to a regional kickoff meeting to prepare for application reviews. Each reviewer will receive a portion of applications for their region. Independently, reviewers will read and assign completed applications, complete scoring for their assigned proposals, providing instruction, constructive comments on strengths and concerns. Your feedback will inform funding recommendations. We've intentionally weighed the criteria based on its importance of the grant proposals. Funding on these 4 criteria because they are in alignment with our grant program and our guiding principles. There are 4 areas where we want your attention: reflection, interest, and feedback. Let's discuss the review criteria. There are 4 scores to be entered per application. Community representation and community engagement may receive up to 15 points each. Mission-driven work can receive up to 10 points. Collaboration can receive up to 5 points. The total possible points on an application can receive is 45, and awarding all 45 points would be an exceptional score. You'll notice that the 10-point scale is similar to the 15-point scale, but it does reflect a different point range. We've included this here for your use during the review process. Mission-driven work is question number 4. The first section to review is mission-driven work. The maximum number of points for mission-driven work is 10. When reviewing applications, we're asking you to assess if the mission clearly identifies the specific priority populations listed. Does the program or services strongly support, advance, and connect to the organization's mission? Requests considered not competitive will be those that lack information, do not identify priority populations, and show little or no support or connection with the mission, are not realistic, or are not considered mission aligned. These are the three scoring scales, 15, 10, and 5, as some reviewers' criteria hold more weight than others. So on the 15-point scale, 15 is very competitive, meaning it is a strong fit. 12 is competitive plus, a moderate fit with some strengths. 8 is competitive, a moderate fit. 4 is competitive minus, a moderate fit with some concerns. And 0 is not competitive, not a fit for community grants, does not meet review criteria. Community representation is question number 5 and can have up to a total of 15 points. In this section, we are looking to see intentional engagement of the community the organization aims to serve, and representation of that community in planning or decision-making role. In some cases, this might be on a board or steering committee, but in others, it might be a project planning committee or similar. Ultimately, we are prioritizing applications that demonstrate a commitment to centering or uplifting community voice, so they are involved in providing input that strongly influences proposal decisions. Requests considered not competitive in this area are those that it is not clear that members of the community served are leading or influencing proposal decisions. Community engagement is question number 6. We're asking you to assess if the organization is intentionally represented by members of a priority population and engage with the organization. Is there evidence to support that focus populations provide input and the organization is actively engaged? Are the members identified engaged as leaders of influence in organizational decisions? The request is considered not competitive for those that have not clearly demonstrated know how members of a priority population are engaged with the organization and making organizational decisions. Scoring scale 5, 5-point scale. Question 7. We've condensed the potential scoring options on the 5-point questions, and this slide provides you with the guidance about how to consider those scores. Collaboration is question 7 and can have a maximum of 5 points. Strong proposals will outline steps taken to engage with other communities with an emphasis on collaboration and partnership. Requests considered not competitive would be those that have not demonstrated clear efforts or lack evidence of partnerships with communities outside of the populations identified. Next steps and application guidance are in your reviews. In addition to scores, we ask that you prepare comments. Comments are incredibly helpful as we communicate back to applicants, both those that receive a decline, but also those that are successful, and how they could improve their proposal. We're asking you to address both strengths and concerns. Comments should pertain only to the review criteria, not components of the organization. We want you to use detail and context. Feedback should be clear. Consider that if you were an applicant, how would you receive the comments provided? Would the comments be helpful if they were shared back to you? Here's some examples of constructive comments and less helpful comments. You can see that constructive comments are full sentences, provide details, and can include how the applicant might have improved or highlighted strengths. Less helpful comments are those that are just abstract thoughts that don't provide detail or context, making it difficult for program staff to interpret. We don't want you to conduct any outside research or bring in outside information. We want you to complete the review based on information from the application only. So why would we do that? We ask this to ensure a consistent and equitable review process. Grant evaluators should refrain from conducting outside research on applicant organizations. This approach helps to eliminate bias, both positive and negative, that could arise from inconsistent or incomplete external resources, such as websites, media coverage, or social media. All relevant information should be drawn solely from the materials submitted by the applicants. Applicant organizations have shaped their proposals based on the review criteria provided and should be evaluated solely on that basis. Conducting outside research introduces information that applicants did not have the opportunity to address or contextualize, which can result in a biased assessment. This approach ensures that all applicants are evaluated based on the same criteria and the same information, maintaining fairness, transparency, and equity across the review process. So here's an example. Sometimes grant evaluators want to look up an applicant organization online, check out their website to gather more information. It might seem helpful, but it creates an unfair advantages. Some applicants might benefit from an extra information that others haven't provided. This additional information can be interpreted differently with each evaluator. To keep the process fair and consistent, you should base your review only on the information included in the application. So please, no outside research or external information. You will begin reviewing your assigned applications. By email, you'll receive them on March 12th, and you can begin scoring in WiseHive immediately. On Thursday or Friday, March 12th or 13th, you will attend a regional kickoff meeting, as if there were critical conversations that will take place. You will receive an agenda prior to the meeting. On March 17th, you will attend a regional drop-in meeting with your program officer, and that will be virtual. All application reviews must be completed and submitted by 5 p.m. on Monday, March 23rd. Thank you for your time and commitment to this program and to Oregon's communities. We are so grateful for your willingness to serve in this capacity. We know you'll learn so much about this incredible work in our communities across the state, and we look forward to your feedback after this cycle. If you have any questions or concerns, please get in touch with us. We're here to help. Thank you.